Going funky.
Welcome to the DJ Doa Show.
Wool up, just wool up.
Get out right here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
9,000! What, 9,000?
Damn, Daniel, back at it again with the wife.
The recession is a forever recession. There's
so?
a cyclical recession that comes and goes, but there's this other thing, and it's the end of the industrial age. It lasted for 80 years. For 80 years, you got a job, you did what you were told, you retired. And good people could make above average pay for average work. And it ended. And so 2012 is not going to be more of the same. It's going to be worse of the same in that the industrial age is going away and a new thing is going to take its place.
It doesn't strike me as we're a group of people who are prepared for this new thing yet.
Totally unprepared. Absolutely. Because our schools, our systems, our retirement things, our taxes are all built around this notion of doing what you're told. And now we don't know what to do because it's a revolution.
And so what do you think we should do?
Pick yourself. Don't wait for someone to pick you. If you have a book, you don't need a publisher to pick you. You can publish it yourself. If you want to write, write. If you want to sing, sing. If you want to start a movement, start a movement. But this shift is that it doesn't matter whether you own a building or own a big company. You can now make an impact if you want to.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another episode of the DJ Doa Show. It's Your World, episode 3. Who needs permission anyway? And thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. I always say this every episode because it's true. The people who listen are the reason why I keep doing this. So thank you very much for all your support. Today's episode is a continuation from the Truth About Work and Degrees episode, where I was talking about the idea that, you know, the deal that you accept when you get into work is I want to take instructions and get paid for it, right? And your entire academic journey has indoctrinated you or put you in a position where you overwhelmingly feel that deal is the best you can do. And when you look around you in most countries in the world, when you're listening to politicians, when you're listening to economists, etc., they continuously talk about how that deal is no longer as good as it used to be, right? Bernie Sanders is always talking about how it's been decades since the middle class has seen a pay increase, and that's the same across the world, you know. In certain countries, like the one I live in, Zimbabwe, people are paid peanuts, you know, for quality work. These are highly qualified, highly intelligent people earning ass simply because that deal is more compelling than the alternative, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. So the excerpt that you were listening to is a man named Seth Godin, and this guy is my hero. I have read everything he's ever written. I am a subscriber of his blog. I watch all his interviews on YouTube. I love this guy. And in one of his books, he describes work as a place where someone goes to be given the opportunity to do what they love. And so he looks at it from a perspective of permission, that, you know, when you want, if you want to go out, let's say you're a kid, when you wanted to go out and party with your friends, you had to ask for your parents' permission to do what you wanted to do, which is to party and hang out with your friends. So the same idea of if you are a designer or a lawyer or an artist or a musician or whatever, you're going to constantly wanting to be seeking permission to do law, art, music, design, by working for people who are looking for professionals who can pay peanuts to do this thing that they love. That's what he says. So my title today is based off of that idea that work is a place where we go to seek permission to do the things that we love. Hence the title, Who Needs Permission Anyway? Right? Who needs permission anyway, being the idea that, like what he was saying, quite rightly, and this was 4 years ago, bear in mind that he said this, 2012. And it makes more sense every year, continuously makes more sense that more than ever, you can now bet on yourself. No matter what it is you want to do, you can bet on yourself. And I can't think of a better example to share initially, because I'm going to actually go through a list of my friends who inspire me, who have actually taken this plunge and are doing well. And I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to celebrate them, because I actually absolutely love anyone who's brave enough to do this. But one of the best examples I can give you is the DJ Dewa Show, this podcast, right? So I could easily have put a resume together, gone to radio stations around. I'll admit I did go to one radio station, go to a few radio stations around the country, hand in my resume and say, hey, listen, I've got this talent, I'm really good at this. Do you mind if I come and DJ at your radio station, right? Or I could just start the podcast, right? That's the whole idea of who needs permission anyway, because this is what I gain, what I don't get at whatever radio station. I get quality control, I get creative control, I get scheduling of my own, I get branding and imaging of my own. I don't have any of the politics that comes with working for a radio station. Can't say this, can't say that. We don't discuss this, we don't discuss that. I say what I want, I say when I want, and I don't have to apply for leave if I want to take a break from the show and do some other stuff and focus on other things that I want to do in my life. I don't have to ask anyone, because I'm not doing radio as instructions for pay. I am doing radio as something that I love to do, as a gift, a talent, right? And that's the thing. And I personally don't want to take this podcast and move it onto as a commercial venture, but I easily could, and I easily could make the decision to want to maybe in the future. But for now, definitely, I'm just doing this for fun. And I'm doing this because I'm good at it, right? So that's the idea, where on one hand you can go into a formal establishment for work and get permission to do what you love, or you can just take the plunge and do it yourself. And the biggest thing that they don't tell you when you're at school, right, is that you actually can't do the stuff you love in someone else's company, because if that's not part of the instructions, you're not going to be able to do it. Like, I've got Raps and Rants, and I've got It's Your World, right? If the radio station I was working for doesn't actually want me to do something like Raps and Rants, or doesn't actually want me to do something like It's Your World, I can't do it, right? If you, as a marketer, I'll tell you, one of the most depressing things as a marketer, right, is when you watch like movies and watch Mad Men and you watch House of Lies and all those other shows where there's hotshot marketing executives. Have you noticed in most movies when they're trying to show someone with a cool job, it's a marketing executive? Boomerang, Nothing to Lose, House of Lies. It's simply endless, right? But when you actually get into marketing, it's not like that. It's not like that at all. You're sifting through emails. You are being asked to rewrite things that you didn't actually want to write. You're being asked to do a lot of things that you're being told, this is what we need you to do for us. This is what you need to do in order to be successful in this company. And I remember the day I actually got pissed off at work was when I had what I thought was a pretty good idea, right? And it was an idea that was going to solve a solution was going to give a solution that we actually needed at our company. And I was told that at the level that I was, my contribution to the company was purely to just do what I was told. And maybe, just maybe, if I spend at least 5 to 10 years in the company, I'd be allowed to give an opinion. Bruh, are you serious? I was out. I was really, really upset. That day, I swear to you, I was really, really upset. But I can't be mad. But I couldn't be mad because I took the deal. That's part of the deal. If the instructions don't allow you to do what you love, that's what it is. So let's delve deeper into this whole, permission and doing it your own way. So what do you need to do to go your own way? First of all, you need to get rid of one hang-up. And the biggest hang-up, and I used to have this hang-up a lot as well, is how am I going to eat? How am I going to get paid, how am I going to monetize my thing? And I'm going to go into very shortly why that's the wrong attitude to have anyway, but it's still a reality. You still need to eat. And I think one of the best conversations I had that helped with this issue was I met a man named James Harrisford, a guy called Nicholas Roris. Introduced me to a financial planner named James Harrisford. He's based in Sydney, and he's got a few operations that he outsources in the Philippines. And this guy was nothing short of inspirational. He was just the best thing that could have happened to me in 2015. And when I was talking to him, initially it was a sort of job interview. You know, we were just trying to figure out whether there was a skill match in what I could offer and what he needed. But when he asked me, Kuda, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? And I said, James, to be quite honest, I'd love to be sitting on your side, talking to someone who wants a job from me. And the minute I said that, the conversation changed. As in, the interview went out the window and it became a dream building session. And he actually showed me how I could, in my field of marketing, set up a 6-man team that could turn over 800,000 and pay people a decent wage. Like, the way he explained it was like he was explaining how water comes out of a tap. It was just so simple, so straightforward, and I understood why he is where he is, because he knows his feces. He knows his poop, bruv. But another thing that he said to me is like, but what's most important for you now is getting started on establishing your brand, getting started on establishing your name, establishing how you're going to actually attack the market, how you actually going to know where you're going, and you got to eat while you're doing that. So he said, look at what you're earning right now, or if you're not working, look at the minimum wage for like the entry level person in your industry and halve that, and you can live on that. And my dad always says to me that the people who are best with their money are the people who live on less than they earn. So if you're, for example, a simple industry standard entry level wage for people in Australia, that is, because that's where I've worked only. For people in Australia, for marketing, is 36 to 45,000. But granted, in Zimbabwe, that's not even the case. Or in other countries, it might not be like that. I guess Australia at the time that I was working was just really awesome. Because I've heard of people at 24, I've heard of people at 30 in other countries. And in Zimbabwe, I don't even want to talk about it. But the case is, he said, take the monthly and you can halve it and you can live on that. But what you're going to be doing while you're living and surviving is you're going to be establishing a name for yourself. So I was talking to him as a speaker consultant, and he said, while you are living, right, let's say I was making $500 a month, right? If, of course, these numbers are going to be ridiculous, but this is for the simple mathematics. On $250, right, I could still eat, I could still pay my rent, right? And most importantly, I could get around from A to B. And while I'm doing that, right, I'm working diligently, I'm working smart, I'm making good decisions towards establishing something that's eventually going to be more profitable in the future. And that's basically what his idea was. You can live on half, right? You can live on half. So let's talk about actually then, what are you going to be doing? How do you make sure that you don't stay living on half? Well, it's pretty simple. I mean, successful businesses are those that satisfy a need, which is why grocery stores and food chains and clothing chains will always be multi-million-dollar ventures, because people are always going to need to eat. People are always going to need to put on clothes. Soap is something that's also essential. People are always going to need to bath and wash their clothes, etc. Right? So those are things that satisfy a need. And then when you're talking about services that you can offer, people are always going to need their garbage taken away. People are always going to want to keep their lawns nice, etc., etc. You can start a service, right, that satisfies a need. However, going on what Seth was saying at the beginning, that interview with Seth Godin at the start, it doesn't matter what you are doing, because you can actually also create a need, right? there's a room using the internet and various other tools and avenues, right, to create a need for what you're doing. Like, people didn't need iPhones, right? You don't need